You are listening to the Disney Dream Girls, an unofficial Disney theme parks podcast. And this is show number 392, the Sunday the 16th of January 2022.
Where dreams begin.
Well, hello and welcome to this week's Disney Dream Girls. My name is Michelle Young, and together with my jolly good chum Jayne Phipps, we are your guides to the place where dreams begin. So our very special guest this week, talking about all things Disney, all things Universal, with an unofficial guide head on, it's the wonderful Seth Kubersky. Hello and welcome back to the Disney Dream Girls.
Thank you. It's always great talking with both of you. Thanks for having me on again. And for the wonderful introduction.
You are very welcome. And we mentioned the unofficial guide, so this is your moment. Give us a little bit of the plug. What guides are out at the moment that our listeners can go and buy to help aid their Disney trip, Universal trip planning?
Absolutely. Well, we all know 2020 and 2021 were pretty rough on theme park planning. We're hoping that we're heading maybe back towards something more normal for next year, for this year, who knows? But in the meantime, the unofficial guide to Disneyland 2022 is out right now, along with the unofficial guide to Universal Orlando 22 and Walt Disney World 22. Right now, we are working on the Las Vegas book, so that will be coming out towards the very end of this year. But all three of our major Disney books are back out on shelves in bookstores, wherever bookstores are still located, or from the usual online places. We really recommend if you head directly to theunofficialguides.com, and we will ship a copy straight to you.
Well, let's start talking a little bit about Disneyland. And I've got the book in front of me. Thank you, Lillian. You are wonderful.
Thank you, Lillian.
The thing that I love about the book is just that it's got your contents list at the front and it covers everything. If you are a complete novice to going to Disneyland, which a lot of our friends are because they've been to Walt Disney World, it's been the park they wanted to go to, and then they sort of realise, oh, this Disneyland I can go and sneak over to where Walt walked. And there's so many things to do over there, but it's a completely different animal.
Yeah, if you are only used to visiting the East Coast Florida parks, Disneyland is much more complex in some ways because the parks are much more dense. There's a lot packed in there. But at the same time, in some ways, it's a lot more simple. You don't have a huge sprawling resort like you do in Walt Disney World. Even a lot of the rides that might have the same name in one resort can be completely different experiences. So yeah, if you're a first timer out at Disneyland, pick up a copy of our book and at least just read the first couple chapters on, gathering information, introduction to the resort, the initial planning of your trip. And then you can kind of skip your way through finding just the stuff you're interested in, the rest of it. If you want to read this book cover to cover, all 390 pages, I salute you. It's a little bit like reading the dictionary from front to back. It's sort of designed as a reference document. So, you can jump to the index or you can jump to the table of contents and find exactly what you're looking for. But if you've got, a spare couple weeks, maybe you've been sent to prison and you can only bring one book with you, instead of the Bible, bring an unofficial guide with you because I guarantee it will keep you occupied.
Although thinking about, being from the UK, it's great reading material for being on the plane where you need something to do for 10 to 11 hours. It's great.
Yes.
Take a highlighter, take some post-it note tabs and sort of like customize it, etc. Anyway, moving away from that, let's talk about accommodation at Disneyland. It's a different beast, as you said, to Walt Disney World because it's so easy to stay off site. Do you have a particular favourite that you tend to swerve over to? Because I know you're going in March. Are you going to be staying at a Disney hotel? Will you be off site?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I'll be brutally honest with you. If I was paying out of pocket using my own cash, I doubt I would ever stay at one of the three on-site hotels at Disneyland, simply because there are just not the perks that you get the way you do when you're staying at Walt Disney World. There's no form of early admission at Disneyland for hotel guests. You don't get any jump on making reservations or, getting individual lightning lanes or anything. Like, there's really, other than location and, the sense of being in the Disney bubble, there's no practical benefits to staying at a Disney-owned hotel. And to be perfectly honest, there are hotels that are across the street from Disneyland that are a closer walk to the front gates of the parks than some of the on-site official hotels. I do quite often stay at the Paradise Pier Hotel, which is the least Disney of the three Disney hotels and is also the furthest walk. And the only reason I do stay there is because we have Disney Vacation Club points there that makes it, more cost effective to just use those to stay there. If I am, putting it on my own credit card, I don't necessarily have one specific hotel, but I have kind of a range of hotels that are all located around Harbor and Catella Boulevard. It's the major intersection just to the southeast of Disneyland. There are a number of hotels there that range around $100 a night. And you can walk from your hotel straight across the street into Disneyland in less than 10 minutes. That's where I start. And we actually have a map inside the book that shows exactly, the walking distances for all the closest hotels. And we've even got a chart that shows you both the quality of the hotel, the price of the hotel, and even how good we think the pool is to sort of, help you narrow down. If you have a little money to burn, I can definitely give a big thumbs up to a hotel that we just added to the book this year, which is the Westin Anaheim Resort. It is a brand new hotel built southwest corner of Disneyland property next to the convention center. And it is not an inexpensive hotel, but you will definitely get what you paid for. It was so nice that there were a couple days that my wife decided to skip going into the theme park and just wanted to stay back at the hotel. That's how nice it is.
Sounds absolutely luxurious and a place definitely worth investigating.
Kind of place where they give you really nice robes and slippers to wear, so you don't ever want to leave your room. Each block further away from Disneyland you go, the more luxurious hotels get. Like the Westin, which is by the convention center, is kind of like the new high end, except if you go another few blocks to the east past the Garden Walk, then there's the new JW Marriott, which is supposedly the first 5-diamond hotel in town. The hotels, or I should say motels, that are closest walking distance to Disneyland are definitely motels. They are, a room to stay in for the night and a cup of coffee in the morning and not much else. So yeah, there's sort of this interesting thing where the inverse of proximity to luxury, where the closer you get to the front gates of Disneyland, the less nice the hotel is likely to be, because they figure you're not there to spend time in your hotel. You just want a place to drop your bags and sleep. But if you just go a few blocks away from Disneyland and it's still walkable, or, if you've got that kind of money, you can easily afford an Uber. The Marriott and the JW Marriott and the Westin really set a new standard. And we've got comprehensive reviews on both of them in the new book.
Brilliant.
Well, to put on our list then, Michelle.
Yep.
We've got the hotel sorted. Now we're going into the parks. What is there new in Disneyland? Because obviously they had that whole period where they were shut, but obviously there's been a few new things appeared.
Mm-hmm. Disneyland Park itself, the only real new quote-unquote ride that opened this last year is the reimagination of the Snow White attraction, where if you have ever brought kids to any of the Disney parks and taken them on a Snow White dark ride, that was a bad mistake. Because, you think you're going to see dwarves and happy forest creatures, and instead the witch was jumping out, scaring the crap out of the kid every 2 seconds. Like, over the years, the unofficial guides got more letters of complaints about the Snow White dark rides than any other attraction at the Disney parks. Like, we have a file of people saying that their kids were traumatized by Snow White. And I think Disney finally got tired of that. Years ago in Walt Disney World, they got rid of that ride and replaced it with a meet and greet. Disneyland, thankfully, kept the ride. And a lot of the major elements, the track layout is still the same. You're still riding a little car through the story of Snow White. But the colors have been brightened up. They've added more animatronics of Snow White, more cute animals. They've de-emphasized the scary parts with the witch, and they've given it a proper happy ending with some really amazing digital lighting and projection effects no one goes all the way to Disneyland just to ride Snow White. I mean, even people go all the way to ride Peter Pan, maybe. Very few people put Snow White at the top of their list. I think this is one, since they've redone it, you should really definitely put it on your list as something to revisit. If you dismissed Snow White, Peter Pan is still the tops in my book for the Fantasyland dark rides, just because it's so beautiful flying over everything. But this renovation brings Snow White almost up to the level of Alice in Wonderland, as kind of the top tier of the traditional dark rides. On the other side, over in California Adventure, the big news last year was the opening of Avengers Campus. Please do not call it Marvel Avengers Campus, because Universal has exclusive rights to use the word Marvel for their Islands of Adventure. But you can call it the Avengers Campus, with plenty of superheroes. And the headliner ride there is the Spider-Man Web Slingers ride. If you have been on Toy Story Mania, and you can imagine playing Toy Story Mania, except waving your hands around with gesture recognition instead of holding a gun in your hand, that's exactly what it is.
It looks like a workout in itself, though.
It is. My wife discovered that the best way to do it is not to try to make Spider-Man gestures with split fingers and your fingers and trying to look like, Tobey Maguire, or I'm sorry, dating myself, Tom Holland. You just karate chop like crazy, as hard and as fast as you can in the general direction of the screen. And at the end of the ride, you will have the most points and the most carpal tunnel syndrome. It is definitely, I'm not a huge fan of Toy Story Mania, even though I know it's a hugely popular ride, just because every time I get off there, my wrist, from repeatedly pulling the string over and over again, my wrist aches every time I'm done. Buzz Lightyear's, you can sprain a finger. Well, this is like a full arm workout. By the time you are done, your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, all of it's gonna be warm. That's for sure. It's not a bad ride. They recently removed the requirement to get a virtual boarding pass, which made getting on the ride a lot more of a hassle than it should have been. It's not an e-ticket. The e-ticket for the land has not been built, and to be frank, might never be built, because Disney's track record with building the second phase of major projects has not been good. So maybe someday we'll have a big Avengers e-ticket. Till now, we've got something that's basically a few steps ahead of a ride that's been around for 15 years. It's cute, but the Avengers Campus, if you compare it in terms of scope and scale and ambition to like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge over at Disneyland, it's obviously a lot more modest. It doesn't feel as immersive. There's not a lot of relaxing shaded places to just hang out. But the good thing is that every Marvel superhero that you've pretty much ever seen in the cinematic universe shows up. And they do a great job of, whenever there's a new TV show out, like Loki or Hawkeye, whatever costume that they were wearing on TV that week, they inevitably seem to pop up in the park. And that makes for great, little short-term experiences. I like the fact that they're constantly adding little new things. As far as the land itself goes, it's not as much of a home run, I think, as Cars Land was, or in some ways it's not even as interesting as Galaxy's Edge. But it is definitely worth checking out during your next visit.
Cool.
What about the eating? Because, we are big, massive foodies, and there is some options on food over there. Is it any good?
It's been a real roller coaster ride with food, theme parks in general, but Disneyland resorts specifically over the last few years. There was a time when Disneyland food was just terrible. And if you weren't eating popcorn or a churro or a corn dog, you should just leave. Just go anywhere. Food has improved greatly over the last decade at Disneyland in general. A lot more fresh options, a lot more options for vegans and vegetarians. But the pandemic and supply chain issues really hit the park hard. A lot of things just disappeared, or portions were reduced, or prices got raised. Some of that is being rolled back, and it's almost like on a day-by-day basis. I go in and check the online menus. Thank God they brought back the bread bowls. I'm a big soup fan. I love the bread bowls that they serve a lot of the soups in. And for many months, the bread bowls were gone and everything was just served in a plastic bowl with a little piece of bread on the side. And that just does not cut it for me. So I'm happy to say that that the bread bowls have started coming back. You know, it's still very hit or miss. If you have a restaurant with a favorite item, I would definitely look up in the book or hop online, go to Disneyland's website. They're very good now through the app of being able to look up any particular restaurant and seeing what's available there. So if you have a particular entree that you've got your heart set on, make sure you look that up ahead of time to save yourself some disappointment. I will give one little tip. Eating immediately outside the parks, the downtown Disney district's gone through a lot of changes. If you like Earl of Sandwich, eat it while you still can, because that one's probably going away for good. Catal, in the last year, got a new chef, got an updated menu. It's always been a good restaurant, but our last visit there was better than good. It was excellent. We had a really fantastic paella and excellent salads and fantastic view out over from the second floor out over all of downtown Disney. If Catal has not been on your radar, put it on it.
And I suppose that's another plus of Disneyland, isn't it? You can just walk out of the park and you've got lots more options available to you.
Yeah, it is. You know, if you're at Walt Disney World and you want to just hop over to another hotel that isn't on the monorail for lunch, it's going to take some time. That's going to take several hours out of your day. Even going to a monorail hotel can take an hour or two out of your day. The nice thing about Disneyland, you can hop that monorail from Tomorrowland right over to the Disneyland Hotel. The Tangaroa Terrace, that's another one, hidden gem. I can highly recommend. It's the restaurant that's by the pool, but it's much better than your average pool bar restaurant. And they now serve all of the same bar snacks that you can get inside Trader Sam's. Trader Sam's is one of my favorite places on property, but I haven't seen the inside of it in years because there was always a multi-hour wait list to get in. But now you can get all of those same specialty drinks or the long beans, the panko-crusted long beans, which are amazing. All that same food and drink you can now get without the wait right next door at the Tangaroa Terrace.
That's a good tip as well, because I love going to visit that place because they do the most amazing Hawaiian burger, and oh my word, yes, so good.
Yeah, they've got a good they got a ramen bowl now that's very good. They've got a lot more authentic food and really tasty. It's a great alternative to the usual fried chicken fingers.
Yeah, and it's nice to be adventurous. It's nice to be able to have that little taste of something different.
And of course, you know, if you've got a car or you're willing to take a ride share, the Anaheim area, you know, it might not be world famous for its cuisine, but there's some great restaurants in the area. I especially recommend if you want to take a few hours away from the Disney bubble, take a drive over to the Anaheim Packing House. It's a historic building just not even 15 minutes from Disneyland, where they've turned what used to be an old factory into a food hall. And it's they've got little artisan shops and everything from poke to French pastries. It's basically like a mall of food. You can definitely kill an afternoon there easily.
With food. And as you say, I'm very blessed. I do, when I go over to California, have a number of friends, and they've taken me to the most amazing sushi places, because UK sushi is really expensive.
Oh yeah, there is it's listed in the book. I believe it's called Sushi Pop. There's a really good all-you-can-eat sushi place only about 15 minutes from Disneyland with a great selection. And it's not like a buffet where everything's pre-made. You order by the piece and they just bring you whatever you want, as much as you want.
Oh, they just need on the menu complimentary stretchy pants. So we've talked a little bit about food, and I must say, you know, I agree with you. Being a visitor to Disneyland, I personally think that the food there, last time I went, outweighs and is amazing. particularly the snack game that they have over there. You know, they have some of the most amazing little treats. You know, there's the yellow snow that you can get over in DCA, which is hilarious. You know, trying to explain, yeah, it is okay to eat yellow snow. It's quite good fun. But also, you know, Jolly Holiday Bakery with all the classic staples that they have.
Oh, the macaroon. The Matterhorn macaroon is probably my favorite cookie on earth. I could eat those every day.
And for some reason, Disney haven't cottoned on yet. They charge a reasonable price for it. You know, it's ridiculous.
Don't say that. It'll go up.
Well, everything's going to go up. It's Disney. You know. You look at some of the cupcakes. It's like $6-7, and you think, this little macaron, what, $3? Oh, yeah, perfect.
I would say that's one thing you will note with the pandemic is that portion sizes have crept down and prices have gone up, just like everywhere and everything. Some things that were really great bargains are maybe not as great a bargain. One thing I'm thinking of is Bengal Barbecue, which is in Adventureland. One of my favorite quick service snacks when you want something that is savory, not sweet, meat on a stick. Every culture loves meat on a stick. My favorite one is the asparagus wrapped in bacon. You know, those used to be like our best value. You know, it was like $5 and you get a nice big skewer. Now they're over $7, and the portion size has shrunk. So it's not a bad value, but it's not a great value the way it used to be. And you know, there are a lot of things around the park that are like that.
Yeah, I must admit that even beforehand, I did think Bengal Barbecue was quite a pricey option, a good option, but it was pricey. Yeah.
It's funny. I would love to. I should do a chart of price versus portion size on Bengal Barbecue over the last 15 something years that I've been doing this book. Is every year, the quality is still there, but the value proposition goes down another step every single year. So, Yep.
Has everything now reopened from the pandemic over in Disneyland, or is there still anything that is closed?
In terms of rides, all the rides are reopened. The biggest thing that is still not reopened is entertainment. You have a lot of entertainment venues that are still shuttered. Some meet and greet venues. Meet and greets have slowly been coming back, but they're still kind of distanced. You still can't hug a princess. You can now wave at a princess from like a socially distanced 6 feet away. But, you know, that's actually a lot of that is coming back this spring. They haven't officially announced dates, but I would look for World of Color to return in March, around the time of the Food and Wine Festival that they're doing at California Adventure. And I also look for Fantasmic and, believe it or not, the good old Main Street Electrical Parade, all coming back this spring. That's the one that really shocked me. They had just created a brand new parade called Magic Happens. Before that, there was a fantastic parade called Paint the Night, which only ran for a couple years. So they have two nearly brand new parades sitting in storage backstage, and they decide instead to bring back the Main Street Electrical Parade. And the only possible reason I can think of that, one, maybe just pure nostalgia. They think that will help bring back more crowds. Or two, that it requires fewer live actors to perform. Staffing is a major issue everywhere. You know, a lot of these people who are entertainment folks, you can't just sit around at home for a year and a half waiting for your career to come back. A lot of people have moved on. They moved on to different jobs. They moved on to different cities. So, you know, when you have some big piece of entertainment that requires 100, 200 performers, you can't just flip a switch and those people instantly pop up. When these things do come back, there'll probably be some modifications, but hopefully the spirit of all these things will be intact. So yeah, entertainment is the last big component that hasn't fully returned, but we're looking forward to spring.
There's one biggie that has come to the Disneyland Resort that we have not talked about, we have not hinted at. So The best thing about being a Disney fan is being able to bypass those lines by going to a fast pass ticket machine and getting a fast pass. I love that because that little paper ticket not only doubled up as a cool souvenir, because sometimes the cast members let you keep them, but also enabled you to ride some of the big attractions like Radiator Springs Racers a little bit quicker than anywhere else. I gather that's not the case.
I hate to break the news to you in case you've been hiding under a rock, but Fast Pass is dead. Fast Pass, ding dong.
No.
Most sincerely, clearly dead. It ain't coming back. But we have a new system called Genie Plus and Lightning Lane to replace it by making all of us more confused and a little more broke. There is an entire chapter on this in the book, and to be honest, this book was written right as the service was being announced, but before the service had actually gone into effect. We got it pretty close to right in the book, but we actually have online on our website additional information on changes that have gone into effect since we went to press. In a nutshell, if you visited Disneyland in the last few years and you remember Max Pass, which was a paid version of Fast Pass that you could use on your smartphone through the app, basically Genie Plus is the same as Max Pass with a couple of major differences. And the major differences are, one, not every ride is included in Genie Plus. The old Max Pass system covered every ride that had a queue that accommodated it. In Disneyland now, there are several things that are excluded from it. Rise of the Resistance is not included. Radiator Springs Racers is not included. And the Spider-Man Web Slingers ride is not included. So you can buy into Genie Plus for $20 a day, flat fee per person. But if you want to ride those three rides, you have to go and get an individual Lightning Lane, which can cost up to $18 per ride. So, and you can buy up to two of those a day. So you could spend between the $20 for the Genie Plus the $15, $18 for the individual Lightning Lanes. You can easily spend $50 a person on top of your park ticket just on Genie Plus. The thing to keep in mind with Genie Plus is that it sort of works the way FastPass did, where you go into the app and it gives you a time and you come back at that time and you supposedly have a shorter wait to ride your ride. The big catch is with MaxPass, you used to be able to get the same ride more than one time in the same day. Now it's one time per ride and then you're done. And a lot of those rides you might not be interested in. You might only be really interested in, 3 or 4 of the e-ticket attractions. And so you're paying all that money to only use it for those. And once you've used it on each of those once in the day, you're done. It does work in both parks, but there are still restrictions right now on park hopping. You can't park hop until the afternoon. So that also cuts into how many of these Genie Plus Lightning Lane entitlements you can get through in a day. One other little catch is it used to be if you got a reservation time that was way far in the future, you could pick up a second one after 90 minutes. Now that's been extended to 120 minutes. So not as efficient for stacking those up for the afternoon. There are still some tips and tricks. We really recommend, if you're only doing one park, if you're not park hopping, if you are showing up at Rope Drop and you're planning on staying all the way to the end of the day, you might not need Genie Plus. But if you're only there for a portion of the day, you plan on park hopping, then you might really need Genie Plus in order to get everything fit into one day.
My biggest gripe, being from the UK, going over to Disneyland and using the MaxPass system before, the Wi-Fi, you had to stand right next to that hotspot or you couldn't get on the Wi-Fi. So this puts me at a disadvantage because I then have to trog to that little Wi-Fi hotspot, get onto the Wi-Fi, try and get on to get my Genie Plus or Lightning Lane or whatever, and that really does put me at a disadvantage. That's my biggest gripe apart from the cost.
I agree 100%. There are guest services, little stations with blue umbrellas around the parks where people can hopefully help you out if you run into trouble, but you really can't rely on that for making your reservations. In order to use Genie Plus efficiently, you have to have a smartphone with a data connection. While Disneyland has added a lot more of those hotspots and made coverage better in the park, there are still dead spots, especially if you're in the queue for a ride and you want to make a reservation for your next ride while you're waiting in the queue. A lot of times that might be hard. For people who come in overseas, this is an extra expense. But if you have a card that is a phone that is unlocked and you can change out your SIM card, you might be better off once you land in the United States, or you can order them ahead of time from different services. Get a SIM card with prepaid data that's good in the United States for your trip, so that you can use your phone that way, instead of being reliant on Disney's hotspots, because while they've improved since your last visit, they're still not great.
Agree with that. That's a good tip for me to bear in mind for when I get over to that coast.
Yeah. But that's still an extra expense. And it's also, there's other components of the system. There's also something called Genie without the plus, which is a free service that is supposed to give you a touring plan, not unlike the kind of touring plans we have in the unofficial guides. Except having used it myself several times, their touring plans seem designed to help you see the least amount in the most amount of time. I swear, it was telling me, as a single adult male with no children accompanying him to the park, it kept telling me to go to kiddie playgrounds. Ooh. And I felt uncomfortable. Especially when, I'm in Animal Kingdom. I've told it I want to ride Flight of Passage. I've told it I want to ride Dinosaur and Expedition Everest. And yet it keeps telling me that I should go to this Triceratops spin and then hang out at the Boneyard. And it's making me feel a little creepy. I would say if you want a good laugh, look at what Genie's recommendations are for how you should spend your day. But then flip back to the unofficial guide and look at our touring plans instead for your actual touring plan.
That's a top tip. And you also mentioned Touring Plans itself.
Yes, touringplans.com, our sister organization, still online. Still, they've updated the Lines app for Walt Disney World this year. So it's a lot prettier. If you want advice on what attractions you should be doing in what order, I would be listening to that and not to the Genie app.
And your touring plan subscription for the year is a lot cheaper than one Genie plus Lightning Lane type thing.
Yes,
yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay, so farewell, Disneyland.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Let's hop on over to Florida. So Universal have absolutely been knocking it out of the park. They seem like they can literally build a new attraction in minutes, whereas it's taken Disney years.
Forever.
So we're both Disney fans, okay? So persuade us, what are the 5 top hitting attractions over at Universal that is going to make us drive down iDrive and go to Universal for that ultimate thrill attraction?
But, Velocicoaster, if you are a thrill ride fan, Velocicoaster has got to be on your bucket list. The kind of people who travel all over the world riding every single roller coaster are consistently putting Velocicoaster on their top 10 list. It is not for wimps, but it is not the kind of roller coaster where you feel like you're going to throw up because the G-forces have been snapping you back relentlessly and your head's been beaten against the headrest and you're feeling all bruised. It's incredibly smooth, but it's got so much airtime. Those moments where you feel like you're floating up out of your seat. And there's nothing but that lap bar keeping you down, nothing over your shoulders. There's very few rides that generate that kind of thrill and are also that well themed, with a queue that is as detailed and as immersive as anything you'll find at Disney. So, if you can handle the thrills, Velocicoaster, I think that should be very high on your list. Obviously, the big Harry Potter attractions could pay your ticket and go in and only ride Harry Potter rides and get your money's worth. The original Forbidden Journey ride is coming up on 12 years old now. And there's still, Disney has not created a ride system, except maybe Rise of the Resistance, that kind of can match that for immersiveness and the uniqueness of how it feels to be floating on a flying bench. Gringotts is also a really great ride that kind of combines indoor roller coaster with simulator. My favorite of all the Harry Potter rides is the newest one, which is Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. That's a mouthful. And that is a family-friendly roller coaster that goes forwards and backwards, indoors, outdoors, animatronics, special effects. Basically, everything that you'd want in a highly themed dark ride, but it's also a thrill ride. And it's got these really unusual motorcycle seats where you can either sit up on the motorcycle or sit down in the sidecar, so you can ride it twice for a different experience. And it's one of those rides where grandma can enjoy it, little kids can enjoy it, everyone in between can enjoy it. You know, I don't want to leave off the list what is, one of the oldest rides and still one of my favorites in each park. In Islands of Adventure, The Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man was the first ride to ever integrate 3D and physical effects, and still no one has done it better. Built in 1999 and still looks newer and fresher than many rides that were built in the last few years. And finally, back in the original park, it's been there since day one. It's a little long in the tooth, but E.T. Adventure, there is a charm to E.T. Adventure very similar to the Peter Pan's ride at Disney, where you can see the seams. You can see that the animatronics are all basically department store mannequins, and E.T. never says my name right at the end ever. but it doesn't matter, because there's just something magical and special about that ride. I just hope it never goes away.
Yeah, I love that ride. I'm quite glad you kind of mentioned more Spider-Man and E.T., because the Velocicoaster and the throw around ones are not my cup of tea, as everybody very well knows. So I'll be going for the old school ones, but that's just me anyway. We'll have to do Universal's food as well. What is Universal like for food? Is it on par with Disney?
There was a time where I would have said no. 10, 15 years ago, Disney was clearly ahead in food. And even so, now, because Disney is much larger, Disney probably has a better variety. And if you are looking at strictly table service food, Disney has more upscale options just because they have more hotels.
Yeah.
But I will say Universal, under their executive chef, Steve Jason, has made huge strides over the last decade or so. Food inside the Wizarding World. I know Britain has a reputation for having terrible food, but I love all of the British food that you can get inside the Wizarding World. I love the pasties. I love the Scotch eggs. I love the Guinness stew. So if you want some hearty British pub fare, the Wizarding World has got you covered. A lot more vegan options recently. This is a thing that I've been doing. My wife and I have been trying to eat vegan during the day. And so a lot of times I'm there for lunch, and you've got Beyond Burgers, you've got fake chicken and fake sausage, but it's all actually pretty good. And pretty much every quick service location now has at least one or two vegan options, which is really nice. Most importantly, the biggest positive change in the last few years at Universal has been new sit-down restaurants at Citywalk, which have really raised the bar. It started with the Cowfish restaurant, which is a combination of a burger restaurant and a sushi bar, which might sound really strange, but is surprisingly good. And then they added the Toothsome restaurant, which is a chocolate foundry, totally not a Willy Wonka. We don't mention Willy Wonka around here, so we don't get sued. But yeah, basically it's a Willy Wonka restaurant. My two favorites are Vevo, which is an absolutely first-rate Italian restaurant where they make their own burrata, they make their own pasta. Big Fire, which is the newest restaurant at Citywalk, and it is they specialize in wood-grilled steaks. They do an excellent ribeye. They also do seafood. If you want something that's a a little step above the Outback, but not as expensive as going to the Palm over at the Hard Rock. That is a great choice.
All sounds really good. And again, it's the same thing, isn't it? They're really upping the game at the off-theme park attractions, whether it's Citywalk, whether it is Downtown Disney. These two parks are working really, really hard to draw people in through that. So you might not be spending your money on theme park entry, but you can still get a touch of Disney or Universal.
True.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely want, if you are staying on site, they want to trap you. They want to make sure they have enough things for you to do without having to leave their property.
Okay, well, I am seeing the time. I am seeing it's ticking away to the time we have to say goodbye to yourself. Very quickly, what are you looking forward to the most in the Florida area? That could be Disney World or it could be Universal in 2022.
Yeah, I am very much looking forward to Disney moving forward with the long in process Epcot renovations. Epcot has basically been a giant construction zone for several years, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. The Guardians of the Galaxy roller coaster should open this year, finally. Yay. And I am excited for that to finish. And also some of the other construction that has taken over the center of Epcot. I'm looking forward to that wrapping up. And also, just like in Disneyland, I'm really looking forward to more live entertainment coming back at Walt Disney World. Fantasmic is going to finally resume with some new scenes. Going to get rid of that Pocahontas finally and put in some new stuff from Frozen and Moana instead. And, I want some of the streetmosphere to come back. I miss the citizens of Hollywood.
Those are great things, and let's hope we see them back soon. Before we say goodbye, do you want to give yourself a big old plug where people can find you on social media?
Of course. Well, you can find our website with our blog and a link to purchase our books at theunofficialguides.com. And if you're on Twitter, you'll find us at the UG Series, or on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest at the Unofficial Guides.
Fantastic stuff. And there's lots of blogs and things coming out all the time, and I know when you make a trip you always try and go live as well, which is brilliant.
Yes, keep an eye on our socials, and we help you live vicariously through the parks through our camera lens.
Which is helping us in the UK who can't get there properly yet.
Soon.
Thank you ever so much for sharing your wonderful knowledge with us. As said by Seth, you know how to get in touch with him and the Unofficial Guides. To get in touch with us, email info@disneydreamgirls.com. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter @DisDreamGirls, and we're also very active over on our Facebook page, Disney Dream Girls Podcast Family. But until next week,
it's always a pleasure talking with you both.
Bless you.
It's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
Bye.